Hello, welcome to Poetry Changes Lives, my book of poetry, history, and a thought for the day. I wrote it because I really love the way poetry opens your mind, the way it changes your mood, the way it makes you think. And the way you think, of course, affects the way you behave. And poetry affects me in a way that is always beneficial. And I really love that effect. Today I just want to talk about a short but very interesting poem, one that's a real favourite of mine. It's by American poet William Carlos Williams, and it's called The Red Wheelbarrow. William Carlos Williams wrote and lived at the beginning of the 20th century. He was a doctor living in New Jersey, an interesting man. His family came from Hispanic background somewhere in the Caribbean, and as he grew up as a child, Spanish was the main language spoken in their house. But William was very well educated in schools in America, universities in America and Europe, Switzerland and France. He trained to be a doctor, and for most of his life he worked as a doctor in general practice during the day and wrote poems at night, living in New Jersey. He very much liked modernist poetry. He was a friend of people like T.S. Eliot and Ezra Pound, both American expatriates, of course. But Williams always lived in America, apart from when he was getting his education. He was fond and interested by the imagist idea of poetry. He said things like, no ideas but in things. And this poem, The Red Wheelbarrow, very much illustrates the point. Here's the poem. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. What does it mean? Those 16 words have puzzled people ever since it was written, really. It was published in, I think, 1923. I'll say it again. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. When it first came out, people sort of assumed it was William Carlos Williams' personal experience as a doctor somehow, whereby there was a story that he was doing a house visit on a very sick child, and everyone in the house was very anxious, and they were all waiting for the phone to ring so that they would get the blood results and know the prognosis for this poor sick child, a little girl. And they were all looking out of the window, and they saw this red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. When you think about the poem, at first it may just seem a statement, but actually the crucial words are the first four. So much depends upon, because that gives the poem tension. It brings a sense of fear and anxiety to the whole work, and an air of mystery as well. We ask ourselves, what is it they're depending on? And we still don't know the answer today, really. Williams himself said some 30 years later that it wasn't about his doctoring at all. He said it was a poem in homage to a friend of his, an old Negro fisherman called Marshall. When one day Williams was visiting this man and saw in his backyard a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside some white chickens. But when he said that, Williams was recovering from a serious heart attack, and he had been receiving treatment for depression in a mental hospital. So it is certainly possible that he either got it wrong or was in some way being a bit contrary, because there was a slightly sort of devilish streak in some of Williams's work and life, but we simply don't know. The thing is that we shouldn't be too worried about finding the exact meaning of a poem. There's more to a poem than the meaning. Sometimes a backstory can be tremendously helpful and give us a real emotional lift about a poem. But on the other hand, a poem should be able to stand on its own, I think. The beauty of the words and the construction also mean a lot. I know American poet Billy Collins once said words to the effect that too many people try and, as he put it, tie a poem down to a chair and beat the meaning out of it with a piece of rubber hose. A dreadful metaphor for people desperately trying to find the meaning of something. And I think it's true that very simple poems open up our imagination in a delightful way that we can just let it run riot. And particularly minimalist poems do that. Ezra Pound once wrote another very short poem, which I think is only 12 or 14 words long, which is also full of beautiful imagery, though it's really a very simple statement. It's called At a Station of the Metro, because he lived in Paris, and it goes like this. The apparition of these faces in a crowd, petals on a wet white bough. Again, it's just a beautiful image of people's faces as a metro train travels through a station, at a station on the metro. Japanese haikus are another example. They're usually limited to 17 syllables in 3 lines. Very, very simple poems, but they have a knack of opening the mind to all sorts of possibilities and ideas. And I, for one, absolutely love that, more than sometimes, a poem that goes on for 20 pages, some of Tennyson or Robert Browning or some of these Victorian poems. Really, in my view, overdid things, though of course they have their beauty of a different kind. The Red Wheelbarrow is, for me, a great example of a poem that I can just sit and play with in my mind and imagine all sorts of scenarios and just savor the moment, as I think William Carlos Williams was recalling a moment. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. What do you make of it? Thanks for listening. I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you. PoetryChangesLives.com. You can get me on poetrychangeslives@gmail.com. Thank you.